Hi everybody, just adjusting this a little bit. There we go. Hello world. Gonna read a poem today by Emmett Wheatfall from his book, First Among Beautiful Stars. I couldn't find a copy of this online, but I'm gonna put a link to the Amazon page on the description. First Among Beautiful Stars. This is the poem In Solemn Contempt. I will spot you the moments, cede you the rest of my days, if only you would love the very best of me and the worst of me in solemn contempt. For in that manner, in due course, I know I am the one. The one fairer than your mother, never the toss-up of a two-sided coin, with heads being the tale told, and tails the sins never repeated. I will spot the moments, cede you the rest of my days, notice you among beautiful stars. If only you would love the very best of me and the worst of me in solemn contempt. In Solemn Contempt by Emmett Wheatfall. Wanted to say a couple things about this poem. First is, this poem is all one stanza. There's no punctuation. And there's a line, and then there's a space, and there's a line, and there's a space, there's a line, and a space. So there's not really a, the poet, Emmett, doesn't kind of direct you how to read this. Which means, at least the way I'm looking at it, he gives me some flexibility for how I'm going to read this poem. I can do it any number of ways. I'm going to read the first couple of lines here. I could give each line the same amount of weight. I can do it that way. I will spot you the moments, cede you the rest of my days. If only you would love the very best of me and the worst of me in solemn contempt. Or I can interpret it in another way. I will spot you the moments, cede you the rest of my days, if only you would love me in solemn contempt. Or you can do this, you can keep on going over and over this, kind of depending on how the poem is strong enough to allow you to read this in different ways. I'm kind of like the long way of going around to say that it's strong enough that you can take those words and find your own kind of way through it. That's what I wanted to say about that. And it's good enough to allow you to do it. Having said that, there are several lines in here that are repeated. And this is really kind of in a block of 6 lines, and then there's another 6 lines, another 6 lines. It's about 25 lines total. And so the repeated lines are, I will spot you the moments, cede you the rest of my days, if only you would love the very best of me and the worst of me in solemn contempt. And at the very end, we get those lines repeated. There's a little bit of variation there. I will spot the moments, cede you the rest of my days, notice you among beautiful stars. So that's a different line. If only you would love the very best of me and the worst of me in solemn contempt. So, what are we saying? Take that first line. I will spot you the moments. I will spot you the moments. Spot's got a couple different words. I think the spot's the word we want to take close attention to in that line. I don't think it's like spot, like spot on your shirt or notice somebody. I think it's give. I'm going to spot you $5. Spot, I think in that kind of context is, I'm going to give you something, but I kind of expect something in return. That's kind of the way I look at that spot. And then the next line, seed you the rest of my days. Seed's being used as a verb in this context. I think also the idea of, I'm going to give, I'm going to provide this to you. And so the first line, it's moments, and the second line is days. So I'm going to give you moments. I'm going to give you time. I'm going to provide you time. That's what these first two lines are saying. And that's followed by the next three lines. If only you would love, so this is the, I think, in line with the spot. So I'm going to do this. If only you do this. If only you would love the very best of me and the worst of me in solemn contempt. There's something that reminds me of a wedding vow in these four lines. The very best of me and the worst of me in solemn contempt. So solemn contempt, that is kind of a strange juxtaposition of words. Solemn. There's a religious aspect of it, of reverence. And contempt is basically a lack of reverence. So you have reverence and the lack of reverence. Reverence, lack of reverence. So it's kind of a confusing way. I don't know if it's a universal way, but it's kind of a specific way. So you want to be loved. You want to be loved. Wants to be loved in this way that is both. That is, I'm going to say, that's both kind of spiritual and not spiritual, or reverent and also not reverent, elevated and not elevated way. So I read this at an open mic. Somebody said, "Boy, this is really kind of a tough poem." It is kind of a tough poem. I have to agree that it is a kind of a difficult poem because you have this ask that is kind of confusing and has some contradicting ways about it. So that leaves us with the middle section. So we start with the first part of the repeated lines, and we end with the last part of the repeated lines. So you have to love the very best of me and the worst of me in solemn contempt. For in that matter, in due course, to me this almost sounds contractual, or maybe like a little bit archaic, like something that you might find in a document from the 1800s or something. For in that matter, the matter of people loving me or I loving them, in due course, I will know I am the one. The one fairer than your mother, never the toss-up of a two-sided coin, with heads being the tale told and tails being the sins never repeated. Setting aside the very clever heads is a tail and tails is a heads is a tails and tails is a sin. So that's all very clever. I think it all comes back to, I know I am the one. If you can love me in this way, in this kind of a specific way, I know I am the one. Interesting. Last thing I wanted to say. there's an extra line towards the end, fifth from the bottom. Notice you are among beautiful stars. I will spot the moments, seed you the rest of my days, notice you among beautiful stars, if you would love the very best of me and the worst of me in solemn contempt. So that line can be a little bit confusing because this is a line that is kind of a theme of the book, not necessarily just by itself. So I'm going to quickly read the title poem, First Among Beautiful Stars. I shudder to think about the returning to the deep, the vast oasis of darkness lacking beautiful stars, to that subconscious world where absent are continents. Will I again know myself, let alone my given name, all I've ever known in the temporal light of life? If there is the light of God, let him illuminate me so that I be the first among beautiful stars. So that goes back to that line. Notice you among beautiful stars. I think that, and this is just kind of my interpretation of it, that amongst the theme of the book itself, that to be among the beautiful stars, you have to be present. You have to be awake. You have to be alive. You have to be able to notice things like beautiful stars. So when we get to that last part, I will give you the moments, I will give you my days. I will also be present and see you. There's also a spiritual aspect to this that we can get into if you like. If only you could do these things. So, anyway, First Among Beautiful Stars in Solemn Contempt, which is a wonderful poem. Well, maybe we'll do this again. Bye.